everybody, it's me, Mrs. Bill, remember from yesterday? Great. Who? What? How do you spell Kaylee? Okay. So we are doing this little value scale. It says 9 value scales up there. So one thing that you could do that would make your life easier if is in this sketchbook, we drew a little rectangle. I guess it doesn't have to be a rectangle. You could just do blobs. Instead, if you want, you could do circles like this. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Dang, I'm kind of good. Okay. Because this is a sketchbook. So actually, let's do it like this. Let's draw a rectangle and circles. Because there's an important thing to learn after this. They're not perfectly spaced. Who's bad at drawing circles and is like, this is killing me? They need to be perfect. Go up to the board and grab my circle templates that are hanging up on the TV. Not on the TV, by the TV. We are going to start with our light area. Oh God, I wish I had my erasers. Oh, can someone throw me an eraser from the rainbow drawer? Yes, Hope, you're gonna get me, I know it. All right, so Ellie knows where it's at. The nice thing about this paper is it's toned, so we're going to start with just white. Yes, I'm really good at sports. Watch. Oh, it landed still. Go team. Just kidding. I'm not good at sports. But I like to be enthusiastic, and I like the friendship aspect of sports. You know what I mean? It's like you always make best friends. Okay. So we're going to make this get lighter. So I'm painting this on there nice and thick, but not in a way that's going to make it stand out. Not stand out, like be too textured. So you can't even see what I'm doing, right? It is so bright. And most of you are going to get this because this isn't your first art class ever, correct? And you've had me before, so you kind of know how to mix paint already. And the amount of paint I gave you was, guess what? Way too much. Ugh. So we are going to mix up some different levels of gray. Now I'm going to mix up just a little tiny bit. Look how little paint is on my brush. That is so small, the amount. So let's try to make a really light gray. So we're making a highlights. As you can see on the board that I have with the TV, it says white, highlight, light, low light, mid value. So it's not that it's dark and super bright. So we are creating our highlights, our little areas of mid value. So I'm trying to see just how light that looks. This almost looks too dark compared to what I just did. This is really dark. So what's the nice thing about acrylic, y'all? It dries fast and you can paint over it because it's opaque. Opacity means that you cannot see through it. So I am going to mix up another little dark area. So one thing that I do is I take from my area previously that I was working with. What I mean is I scooped out some of my paint from before, and then I'm going to mix it. Ooh, this is just getting even darker. So I'm trying to match the colors, not colors, the values that are up on the screen, and on your Canvas page for this class, that value scale is there. So if you cannot see the TV, it's on your computer, it's on your phone. So I'm trying to make this just a little bit lighter, but not much lighter. So I'm mixing and having it go from light to dark. I'm going to steal some more whites. And I think that my gray area needed to look lighter. So this is what you're going to get better at, is judging your mixture. So what we're going to do in the rectangle area is we're going to make a smooth blend from light to dark. So I'm going to show you how to do that next. So we're mixing up these wells right here. I call these little disc holes wells. I don't know what do you guys want to call them? They look like wells to me. Okay. I'm going to stick with the regular vocab then. Little dips. So I'm trying to see if this can get much lighter. We're going to practice identifying the shadows from the highlights. I could work on this forever. Yeah, I did need to make that a lot lighter. So I needed more white. We're going to save this paint and we're going to use it for the value scale above. That is like a gradient scale. So yeah, that needed to get a lot lighter. So what you might want to do before you start painting, that I'm realizing, is, gosh, wouldn't have been a good idea to just mix the colors in my paint palette first before I started painting on it and having to paint over it? Yeah, that would have been a great idea. That way I can physically see what that paint looks like right now. And it's going to get darker, and we need 9 sections. Why 9? I don't know. The internet had 9, so I have 9. How much darker is it going to get? So I'm going to scoop out some of that white. We're all having the time of our lives here, aren't we? This is the most thrilled you've ever been, huh? One trick is I'm putting a little bit less whites in as we go around the way. Some people do that way. So I can physically see I have more white, a medium amount of white, even less white. Just a little bit there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, cool. I'm going to take some black, just a little bit. I'm going to make this one just a little bit darker. My favorite part about mixing the paint is looking at it being marbled. I do want you guys to whip that paint around. You're also going to scrape the side of your brush off onto your color palettes, so that you make sure that you are getting out all of the paint that is stuck in the hairs. The teacher next to me is very loud. Am I that loud when I'm in there? Yeah. When you guys are in that classroom, do you hear me?
I heard you, yes.
Okay. Was I singing?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, okay. You could hear my voice? Okay. He came in the other day because a kid was like, I want to switch classes. Do I need to take my backpack with me? And I said, go on, we don't want you in here no more. But I was screaming it. So he opened the door like, is everything okay? And it was really sweet. Really, really sweet that he cared. He was ready to throw hands. Yeah. That's how you know you got a real friend. You got a real pal. Another trick that you can do to see if it's gotten darker is you can just literally take the paintbrush and put it next to the one you just did. And I can see, yeah, this one is a little bit darker. Even though you've done this before, some of you in here, every paint that you use is different. Like each brand is different. Each brush is going to paint differently. So we need to get used to our new brushes, the new brand of paint that we have. Also, it's a really good reminder that things just aren't high contrast. We've got all these little middle ground areas, and you can get a lot of value from just black and white. Could those people who are afraid of painting in color raise their hands? I'm curious. Some people are afraid of painting in color. Okay. So it is really comforting for some people to paint in just the grayscale. And sometimes when you add color, it looks off. Why does it look off? Because you haven't mastered all the middle tones. And we need to practice getting these little value scales together. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I might need to like make some of mine lighter as I go around. We want just a subtle shift between some of these too. Can you make a subtle shift between each of them? Do I need to be recording this whole thing? Probably not, now that I've thought about it. It's going to take up a lot of memory on my computer. But Kenny demands a new video on YouTube. I have to do what the crowd wants, obviously. So again, keep scraping your brush. Maybe you need to wash your brush. One thing I haven't added to my paintbrush right now is water, because it will water it down. I'm not here for that right now. I want it to be thick and opaque. And if it has even a little bit of water in it, the acrylic paint will break apart and dissipate and not have that nice variety in there. So make sure your paintbrush is dry and clean. Lucky for all of you, you have brand new freaking paintbrushes because I love you. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 9. I technically have 10 if you count everything because there's 10 wells. So I'm going to come around. So we already started just a wee bit, and I'm going to make this one a little bit lighter. I realized that was too big of a jump on mine. If it looks like it's too high of a contrast, then you guys need to lighten it up. Again, please do make sure that you are washing your brush off in between and drying it. Squeeze out all that water. You guys did watercolor last time. You don't need to do it again today. You can make acrylic more like watercolor. If you want to make your ovals cuter and turn them into flowers, you can. One thing that I do instead of washing my paint right away is I squeeze it off onto a paper towel. And that takes a lot of the color off already, and then I don't even need to mix it. So you can use that paper towel that's next to you to just remove that paint by squeezing it out. Is this bleeding through anybody's sketchbook paper? Is it good? I haven't checked. Awesome. Aren't we excited that we got little presents? Yay. Yeah. Thanks, Miss Bill and Miss Marsh. Okay. Wonder how she's doing. I should text her. Say, what up, Queen? No, she got a job closer to home. She was driving almost like 45 minutes to get here. Yeah. Are these the same? Nope, I messed up. They were so close. You can barely see the difference that I did there, but I could see that that was not correct, what I did, because you can tell that that was not correct. I forgot which paint I was already, and I did it again. Those are two different grays. My brain is putting backwards. Okay. Great, cool. There we go. Easy to fix. Who in here has painted with gouache? All right. I found all the gouache. So we can do a fun little gouache project. Gouache is a nice like in between from acrylic to watercolor. But right now we're just gonna stick with acrylic because you are all pretty familiar with it because we did a lot of acrylic in intro class, like a lot. So you're used to it now. Okay. Did you finish, Janaya?
Yeah.
Wow, you're so fast.
Yep.
You beat me.
We're going to take the paper and squeeze it, squeeze it, squeeze it.
go use the bathroom.
You sure can. Have a good time. Sign out.
You got the handle? You don't need to wash it anyway, or the brushes. I mean, you can wash your handle, that's fine. But it's most important to get the paint off of the head.
So yeah. So as you can see, my paper towel is really dirty because again, I'm using the paper towel to wash off the paintbrushes without using a lot of water in between things. So I'm just using the paper towel to remove some of that paint. So I'm almost done with my little circle value scale, and then I'm going to show you how to make a really nice blended, smooth, regular gradient value scale. So you already have all of the colors mixed up, so that's going to be the next part. Hopefully this is going to be able to dry quick enough. And then when we're done with just this little value scale, just so that people don't get behind, those of you who are done with it, we can decorate the cover if it's dry. And you can use all of the colors that are over here on the cart, all of the paint that I have out that you can find. We'll just decorate it, okay? So I'm gonna close this video, and then next one we'll have the actual rectangle value. So the next one, we are going to create a light to dark seamless value scale. So I'm going to start again at the front and taking my white. And now to mix acrylic, you kind of have to mix it while it's wet. So I'm putting down the white first. And as it shifts, so right, I'm getting below it is my oval. I'm going to start applying into that gray. So I'm putting on the white really nice and thick, so it's nice and opaque. And I have a little bit of that white paint underneath, and I'm going to take my second light gray color, and I'm going to start mixing it together while it's wet, going up and down and trying to make this as seamless as possible. And I'm going to also apply some of that other gray into my next section. As I'm doing this, I'm rotating my palette at the bottom so I remember what color I just used. So I don't want to see a line where that rectangle is. I want it to be a seamless transition. So I just wiped off my paintbrush with a paper towel, and now I'm going to do my next gray. And oh my God, that looks like I did the wrong one. I did. I am such a doofusaurus. That's okay. I can fix it. I was just telling you guys my technique, so I didn't do that, and then I did it anyway. Isn't that cute? Okay. But the nice thing about it is it will blend over it because it's pretty thick. So I'm going to put that lighter color in between. So this is what I don't want to see, a really big section of change going from light to dark. So since both of those areas are still pretty wet, I am going to take my lighter gray and I'm going to mix it. And you can see that that line is now gone because since the paint is wet, I'm still able to make it fluid and wiggle it around the paper. So now it has a really subtle transition to that area where I was at. It's kind of like blending in blush, blending in your makeup. Gotta make sure you have it all covered. So I'm gonna even mix my lighter section and make sure that goes in there perfectly into the whites as well. One more time. So it takes a few passes in order to blend things seamlessly. You want it to be as smooth as possible. So that means that you need to wipe off the paint from your brush. You don't always have to completely wash it, but you can. We're just removing that extra stuff, but really squeeze the water out. And now I'm adding my next dark gray over the wet area that I just had so I can get this subtle transition. So I'm in my middle tone grays right now. It's okay if you're not making a perfect rectangle. Mine looks like a tornado. It's going out all over the edges. I'm not a perfectionist when it comes to edges in my value scale. But this is your sketchbook. You can make it as perfect as you want. You will have to take a picture of this and submit it by the end of class. Those of you who are behind, don't worry, you'll get there. I know you will. You're especially going to be able to get there because I made this really helpful video. I feel like now that I said you don't have to be perfect about it, I'm going to try harder to make it into the lines just to prove that I can. It's also very hard to talk and paint constantly. I don't like shushing all of you, but sometimes I have to make you focus better. So again, while it's wet, you should be able to get this really smooth transition. And since it's blending on the page, I'm able to get an even more ranges of gray. It's not just 9, but there's a bunch in between. So again, I'm putting that paint down, wiping off extra paint. I'm going to go to my darker value now. I think this is it. I can hold it above it. Looks like it's exactly the same thing I was working with. So I need to go to my darker one. There we go. Those of you who are already done with it, way to go. Go ahead and post it. Wait for it to dry. Acrylic does dry pretty quickly, especially because, are we putting this on thick? Heck no. You better not be putting it on thick. Right now I kind of messed up one of my lines. You can see that transition's gone because it already dried. We can see an actual line between my light and dark gray. So luckily I mixed up plenty of gray. And I'm just going to blend it back in. Why'd you look at me like that? Did you do the same thing? Oh, okay. Sometimes you might have cleaned your brush and made that really dry, but the little place where the metal is holding on to the brush, where it connects to the plastic, it like gets water stuck in it. And so right now, like my fingers are really wet because there's a bunch of water stuck here, so I can feel it. And I'm worried that it's going to drip onto my next colors below, like to my paint below. So again, there's a really big line between my dark section and my medium dark. So I'm going to take back that color and I'm going to blend it here together while it's wet, and it mixes the paint together onto the paper so we get a really nice combination blend. I am having a delight. I swear I've done this way more times than any of you sitting in here, and I know that you're bored of doing value scales. You're not? Okay, good. Thank God. I needed to hear that, honestly. Sometimes when I think of doing little things like this, I'm like, oh, it's so boring. But that's because I've done it a bunch. Some of you have never done it like this before. Some of you are pros. We're all different people with different skill levels, so I have to make sure that we at least all have those. It's also just really good warm-up, really good practice. What else would you guys want to paint besides a still life? How could we make a still life more interesting? Oh, the triangle rule? Okay. Yes. But what about the content? Once I tried doing a still life that was all food, like fast food. That was a lot of fun. Or Beanie Babies. Yeah. You guys, we think we should actually paint live fruit without eating it quick enough before it disintegrates? Okay.